Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. I have a very exciting video for you today. I am going to be sharing one piece of software that I recently discovered that has really helped me in organizing my writing projects. I have not been using it very long. I am not an expert in it. This is not a tutorial video for this software, but I just want to give you a very basic overview and share because it has really helped me, and maybe it will also help you. So, before we get started, my name is Claire Fraze. I am an award-winning young adult author who makes videos on this channel sharing actionable writing tips that helped me make my own writing better. I am the author of the young adult supernatural thriller They Stay series, including books They Stay, They Whisper, They Return, and I am currently working on book 4. I will be talking about Aeon Timeline today, which is a timeline software that you can download on your computer and use to keep track of when things happen and how events connect to each other over the course of a story. So, Aeon Timeline, I will share my screen just to share pricing with you right off the bat. Aeon Timeline, you can buy it for $64 or $65, and you buy it once and you have it forever, or you get a 14-day free trial, I think. I think it's 14 days, so you can try it for 2 weeks, see if you like it, and if you like it, you get it. If you don't like it, you don't have to. Originally, I tried it for 14 days and I really liked it, but I didn't want to buy it, so I didn't buy it and I missed it. So I eventually just got it because I really liked it. So that is the pricing. And now I'm going to share my screen just so you can see the what the interface looks like. It's really overwhelming. It overwhelmed me a lot at the beginning, which is also why I still am a little bit confused as to how different things work. And also, I understand how certain features work, but they just don't really help me a lot with my story. What helps me the most is the very linear timeline. I write mysteries and thrillers, and all of the events in my story are chronological. I don't do any flashbacks in my current series. And so it's really helpful for me to see when things happen and be able to keep track of this event happens here. And then because of this, this happens. And because of this happens. And this happens at this time on this day, which means that it will be nighttime and they will be wearing this, or it has caught me while drafting and saved me a lot of headache because I've been able to see, okay, this person is in this place at this time on this day, but I also have a scene where the next morning they are 3 hours away, and doing something completely different. And so I've had to figure out how they get from point A to point B and what the transportation is like. And it hasn't allowed me to go into fantasy fiction land. It's been able to help me keep all of my drafts really down to earth and grounded. So I am going to show you, please hold, I'm sharing my screen. I'm recording this all in one take, so it's we have a little bit of a commercial break right here. Okay, so this is Aeon Timeline. I hope that you can see this. They have 2 examples that are already built into Aeon Timeline to show you all the different features that it has. And one of those examples is Wuthering Heights. So this is their timeline for Wuthering Heights. Down here, I'm going to make this all the way big. Oh, maybe I'll just fill screen. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So down here, you can see that you can change the scope of this view to be closer to decades. So see everything really condensed, or closer to days and see everything really spread apart. So you see all the hours at the top of the screen up there. It's on a sliding bar, so you have to figure out what makes most sense to you. But I think for this story, because a lot of the events are more spread out, it would look better for us maybe if we if we looked at it a little like this. So this gives you a point for everything that happens in the story. And they color code it, I think, in this example, with having these little blue ones be have them pertain to backstory or historical background events, and the green ones pertain to stuff that's actually happening in the story. So I don't know if you've read Wuthering Heights. This might have a couple of spoilers for Wuthering Heights. Fantastic book. You should read it. But this gives you just a general idea of what happens and when. It's a very standard timeline. If you wanted to add things to it, you like double click onto the timeline and then you can label the event like they meet the Easter Bunny, and you can change it from being an event to a scene or a flashback or backstory or a character or a place. I always just use events for me and for my story because I don't use flashbacks. It's pretty easy for me to do that. I also am a doofus and created two separate timelines, one for backstory and one for events. And I'm constantly switching between the two of them. I wish I just consolidated them, but they're both so built out now that I have to just keep switching. So having one, next time I have like a series like this, I'm just going to have one timeline for all of it so I can keep everything in the same place. You can color code it. So in my timeline, I have one color per book, and that I started using this when I was writing They Return, and so I had to retroactively go in and add stuff from They Stay and They Whisper. I didn't actually add anything of They Whispers yet, and I only added the big things in They Stay, and I caught myself doing a couple of little silly timeline things, maybe like one egregious timeline mistake in They Stay, but the book is published, so can't change it now. You can change the color there. It says the parent. I honestly couldn't tell you what this means. And it allows you to figure out when this is happening, whether it's an ongoing thing, and then that gives you the big bar, whether it's not. And that's pretty much all you need to do to add an event. If you want to delete it, you can just click it and hit the delete key. And so you scroll through this, you can see everything that happens. You can make everything small, so you can see everything on a pretty consolidated place. This is like all of the green is stuff that happens in the story. But if you've read Wuthering Heights, you would know that it's not told chronologically. Like it starts with Lockwood going to Wuthering Heights and meeting Heathcliff, and all of this stuff is revealed through flashbacks. So this is not a chronological story. But what Aeon Timeline allows you to do is it gives you a bunch of different ways that you can view all of this information. I primarily use this view just because it works for my story, but you can also use the spreadsheet view. I know this must look really confusing. This looks overwhelming to me, and I've seen it before. You can see all the different events that you added to your timeline there. You can label it as backstory versus event here, and then you can categorize everything. Then this could help you write if you wanted to see everything in this view to see what happens chronologically. You can see the relationships. So this is every single scene from your timeline. You can have all of these different characters in your story and different places, and you can map it. So these are the characters that participate in each of these scenes, and this is where all of these scenes occur. And this is also that you can have the different story arcs that they all connect to. So you can track all the different individual characters' story arcs and how much of their story arc is being represented in the timeline. I use plot grids for this. I don't use this for mapping story arcs, but it's there if you want it. You can see it as a subway map, which I always thought was really cool. So you have these different stories or storylines here. You have like the main narrations. This is when Lockwood arrives. And as you can see, this doesn't happen yet. You have the second generation, Heathcliff's Revenge, Catherine and Heathcliff, and Catherine and Edgar. And then all of these events are the green dots, and the subway maps connect the green dots. So you can track a little bit how the story moves between these different places. And this might be a helpful view to you. I haven't personally used this, but I understand why it could be really helpful to see how the story moves across these different lines. You can see it as a narrative. So these are all individual chapter cards for your different scenes. This I think would be really helpful. If you're writing or drafting the book, you can see all the different things that happen, but you would have to organize them into different folders or chapters. And this is the outline. So it looks kind of like a spreadsheet. I haven't figured out exactly how to use this. I guess these are untitled folders, so these must be chapters. So if you do like chapter 1 and chapter 2, then you can figure out which events you want in each chapter. You can also see stuff as a mind map. So they have a family relationships mind map, so kind of a family tree of how Heathcliff is related to everybody and how Catherine is related to everybody, and just, how everyone intermingles, but you can create as many mind maps as you want that could be helpful just to keep track of stuff, especially if you're writing about a big family or something like that. So that's a general overview. Oh, and then if you want to see all of the characters, you can click over here and see the characters and the different places. I think this is story arcs, and oh, I guess this is books. I did this is the first time I'm seeing this feature. I guess maybe you can create a new book that's connected to this timeline and manage it that way or keep track of stuff. Um, Calendar markers, where you can use calendar markers to highlight important dates and milestones in your timeline. I don't know what constraints are. I'm not entirely sure what syncing is, but as you can see, I'm not an expert in this. I'm still pretty new to figuring out what all of this means. So this is the one for Wuthering Heights, and there's some more buttons down here too. I guess they're they're a new layout, so you don't have to see the timeline in this layout. This is the expanded layout that lets you kind of see it on a slant. You can also have it compacted, so it's a little bit easier and you don't have to scroll up and down to see everything. Or you can have it waterfalling, where I guess if it goes all the way down, it starts back up again. They're just different. I don't think it doesn't change the information. It's just how you see it, and then you can choose the different things that you want to display on the timeline. So this is why I should have made my series one just one giant timeline, because you can filter out like and just see events without seeing the flashbacks, or you can just see flashbacks and choose who you want. And then if you only want to see what happens with a certain character, you can just click characters and figure out how long those characters are alive or whatever you have there. So that allows you to filter the information, and you can group items on the timeline. It's a pretty powerful software. It's pretty cool. So now I'm going to see if I can share with you the one that I created for my series. Excellent. So this is my timeline for my series, for the They Stay series. There might be spoilers for the They Stay series. So if you're not interested in seeing those, I've pretty much given you all the basic information about Aeon Timeline already. But if you want to see how I have been using it, this over here is me retroactively going and adding stuff from the first book in the series, just so I can keep track of important dates. This is when the second book happens. I haven't added anything yet. My books happen, like the whole of my book 3 happens over a 6-day period. It's really condensed. And so this timeline is not, it's very like, things happen multiple times a day. So when I really started using this was when I had book 3, and I could track from a day-to-day basis. Here, I'll even like stretch this out a little bit, hourly, like what happened. Like this happens at 4:51 and this happens at 5:06, and all of these different characters. I color code it by book. I don't color code it by character. I might start color coding it by character because that might make things easier for me since I have 4 point of view characters. But I can keep track of when everybody is doing what. And so it doesn't allow me to go off the rails, and it allows me to keep everything consolidated and in one place, so I don't get confused as to where they are or how long it takes for them to do things and have mistakes like them driving to Florida in 3 hours and being back. Like it doesn't make any sense. So that is my timeline for book 3. Book 4 is in blue, so I'm not gonna show that, but you can see down here that I've been using this for book 4 too. It's been super, super helpful. And that's really all I've been doing. So, you can see, I guess over here, there are different labels, and I haven't done any of this intentionally, but they've been filling it in for me. None of the narrative or the outlines or anything, and there are no mind maps. So I just used the timeline. Cool. So that is just a general overview of Aeon Timeline and how I've been using it. I've found it really helpful in keeping track of stuff because I tend to go off the rails in my drafting and not think about the reality of my world as much as I should be. So I used to write timelines out on Word or just linear timelines, and it wasn't quite as helpful as this because it's more visual and I can plot things out and move things around and see where everything fits in. I just wanted to share it in case this is something that might be helpful to you. If you are writing a book with a lot of backstory or a lot of flashbacks, this would help keep track of everything. And that's all I have for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did, please make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel. I make videos like this, sharing craft tips and resources that I find helpful. I hope you have a fantastic week. And as always, happy writing.